Hello, friends. Welcome back to the Performance Lounge podcast. Today, we're talking about social media once again. This is part 3 of our how to utilize social media to grow and scale and enhance your business series. If you haven't already, please feel free to go back and look at part 1 and part 2. Part 1 was getting started, based around just understanding platforms, how they work, the best platforms to identify your target audience based on your product or service. Episode 2 got a little bit deeper. We kind of went into what to post, and we talked about different formats of posting on social media, and again, what best suits different markets. And today we're talking about all about the analytics. So why it's important, what the data tells us, how to read the data, and also how to not get caught in kind of a vanity headspace as opposed to a practical productivity headspace. So as I've said before on these episodes, Bex is the in-house social media expert. I have some tenure, some knowledge, some experience. I can add some value, but this is very much her field and her forte. So once again, this is going to be a Becky Dunn episode, and I'm just going to chip in where I can. So Bex, talk to us about the analytics, the data, why it's important to take stock, and why it's valuable if you want to scale your business.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Thank you. So before we start, I've got a lot of notes written down. This is a topic that I'm social media, I'm really passionate about anyway, as you know. So I've got a lot of notes that I've written down because I just don't want to miss anything, really. So if you see me looking down a lot or referring back, I just want to make sure that I have everything covered, because this part really, the first 2 episodes were really about getting you started and helping you understand, maybe what you should be posting, what content should be look like, and helping you understand really that journey of getting started on social media. But the analytics is where it's at, really. And this is what you really need to be focusing on. And if you're not looking at the analytics, then you're just guessing. And if you are just posting on social media and you don't really care, then that's totally fine. But this is very much business driven, and something that we're really specializing on is growing your business and growing your presence on social media. So the analytics is a huge part of it, because if you're not looking at it, you're just guessing. And if you are only looking at the likes, then you're not looking at the bigger picture, and it's really, really important to do so. So why it matters, with the analytics, you can start to understand what is attracting people, what is building trust, what leads to inquiries, what leads to sales, and then which do we repeat. We spoke about doing and putting out different formats of content in line with different content pillars, which is really, really useful. But then understanding what piece of content performs, like you can see by views and likes, and you can get a rough understanding of what's performing well and what's not performing well. But the stuff that you can see is very much vanity metrics, is what is known as, and what it, what people refer it to. But they are also important as well. Are
No doubt.
people liking it? Are people commenting on it? Are people sharing it? They are really, really important. And also, let's not forget, we are human, and we all have an ego, and it does play to your ego. If you put out a piece of content, especially that you've worked really, really hard on, and it doesn't perform very well, or it's not very well liked, or there's not much engagement on it, it can be a bit disheartening. But the big takeaway message here is to not get tied up in that, really. So yes, it does hurt, and it can be a bit disheartening. You're human. We all have an ego. We all want it to do really, really well. But as we mentioned before, being viral or trying to go viral on a specific post is not really the outcome here of what we're looking to do.
No, and going viral, because it's a catch-22, and it's going to sound like we're contradicting ourselves, but going viral on social media will give you kind of a short-term spike, might even give you a short-term spike in followers or engagement. But if you're unable to consistently keep those new followers and those new eyeballs engaged, then yeah, you've created something cool that people have liked, but it's a bit of a one-hit wonder. And what that won't do fundamentally, or it's highly unlikely that it will continue to convert to actual business.
Absolutely.
We talk all the time about this, that we want customers, not
followers.
followers.
Yeah.
And again, here's the contradiction. The more followers you have, the higher likelihood you have of converting a percentage of those. So I think it was James Smith that was talking about approximately you can expect 3% of your followers to actually convert.
That's really small.
Which is really small. So obviously the bigger your audience, the larger that 3% looks like. But also, it depends on your niche and your sector, and you might be able to make a living, or we know people that can make a living off 8,000 followers.
Absolutely.
Quite
But also
happily.
you have to understand how to harness your followers. And this is where the analytics comes in. Because you can have a huge platform, loads of followers, and just from my experience with working with brands and individuals, people get really caught up with the followers and they get really head over heels for it.
Yeah.
It really doesn't mean shit. It's a cool look. It's a reflection of the work that you're doing, and people are liking what you do.
And it does give you some
Status, like credit.
Yeah,
really.
like you seem to be more authentic. You're pre-selected by others, just straight from a
human behavior, right?
Human behavior standpoint. That does well.
Yeah, but we're talking from a business.
I totally agree.
Perspective, right? So if you want to be an influencer and just do brand work and brand deals, then yeah, those metrics might be really, really important. But if you have a business and you're looking to generate sales or leads, whatever it might be, then the analytics are really, really important.
Agreed.
So the likes, follower count, views without context, they're not useless, but they just don't tell the full story, and that's what's really, really important. So the things that are really useful are your saves, your shares, the reach that you'll get, the impressions, how long people are watching your content for. Are people sending it to other people? That's a really good indication. So when people stop and like your content, it's an indication that it's been seen, because you've stopped. You know what it's like when you're scrolling social media anyway. So the fact that you've made somebody stop and they've liked it, it's still an amazing engagement metric. But when somebody saves your post, not only does that tell the algorithm that, your content is savable and people clearly are enjoying what you're putting out, but it also indicates that people want to come back to your content. If they're saving it, they want to come back to it. That's why I save stuff. Sometimes I don't have time to maybe watch it there and then, or it's really good, or I want to refer back to it, and I'll save it.
It generally indicates it. I think that's one of the best indications that you've provided value.
100%, because you've saved it. Oh, what have we done?
We've got a little technical
that's my
behind us. Allow me, I'm the resident IT.
Press uninstall, and then it's going to come up with something, and I'll click out.
There we go.
There you go.
All right. We can also cater to your IT needs.
Yeah, absolutely. What were we saying?
We were talking about how saves generally
are
an indication that you've provided some value.
Yeah. And then shares as well, because somebody's seen your content and sent it to somebody else to say, hey, you need to see this. Whether it's good or bad, it doesn't matter. It's being saved, and they are the metrics that you really, really want to be looking at. So you can look at your metrics against I'm really talking about Instagram here, but it's really relatable to TikTok, YouTube, Facebook. They all give you the same, but I'm really just specifically talking about some of the metrics on Instagram. So you've got your reels, your stories, and then your actual profile itself. So all of these will give you an indication of how your content is performing. Bearing in mind that obviously your reels and the posts that you do on Instagram is where you place the main body of your content. Stories is where you're building trust. So, if you're looking to build a bit more of a community, or you want to understand how engaged your audience are, stories are a fantastic place to do that. So looking at your stories, are people replying to you? How many people are viewing them? If you're putting out a poll, are people voting? That's a really, really good way. And actually, just as a complete side note, that was one way how I really built my Instagram, because I used to ask my audience what they wanted to see and what they would find useful, or ask me anything and do questions. that literally is free content ideas.
Mm.
And then I would go and film those content ideas. How many people are forward tapping? So that means they've, how you tap through people's stories when you're not really interested, how many people are forward tapping, how many people are back tapping, and then also how many people are visiting your profile. And then within that as well, if you can add in links to your stories, you can also see how many people are visiting your links, or if you add in a website, wherever that link takes you, you can see how many people are visiting off the back of, like if I share a client transformation post and then add a link in that says book a call here or visit that you can buy the program here, I'll be able to see how much that converts. And it's really, really interesting. And I'm going to go through this in a bit more detail in a minute, and I'll let you, I don't know if you want to add anything more here, but what's really, really interesting is my stories, they sit round a really similar percentage of people that see. But I never forget, I put up a story of a photo of me back in like 2007. I like Britney. It was like so funny. The photo that I put up. And I remember the story views had 10,000 views, which is huge for us for stories. It was like a huge increase, but it was just really interesting to see like why that specific post or that specific story did really, really well. And this is what it's all leading to, really. I'm talking about all the stuff that you can look and the metrics that you can use, but how do you use it to shape the content that you create for your business, for your customers, to be able to, retain, build, and reach new people within your niche audience, whatever that might be.
Yeah. You talked about going in blind. It would just be crazy to, I mean, it's just guesswork, isn't it? If you're just guessing what's going to work, when they actually give you the data, they give you the feedback, they tell you what was popular, they tell you what wasn't. So, fundamentally, if you're using your social media to scale your business, the only thing that really matters is revenue.
Yeah,
right?
100%.
So you need to be using every tool you have at your disposal to create content that fundamentally leads to money in the bank. So not using it is insane. But also, as Beck said, don't get hung up on those vanity metrics. On the flip side, I would say, like, go and like your friends' content. If they're building something, go and give them a like, because it does help them out in the algorithm. So whilst it's a vanity metric, a like or a comment or some positive engagement on the post from more people does help give them a little bit more exposure.
Absolutely.
So yeah, so support your mates if they're growing and scaling. That helps, but certainly don't get too caught up in it. I don't think that's
no. So that is really, really important, because again, it carries over, and it's just a nice touch to be able to do. So where you can get really nerdy with this, so this is where at the start it's really, really good to put out a whole variety of content, a bit like what I was saying with the content pillars. And that can also be different formats. So you might put out a reel, you might put out a story, and then you might put out a post, and then you might try those different reels, post, stories in different formats, in terms of like, maybe you put up a blunt post, so just the one image, but then maybe you put up a carousel, and you put up a carousel with some text, you put up some carousel without text, you put up a reel with text, you put up one without text. And this is where you start to really build your story and like what's going to work for you. And even then, deep diving, because I really review my content even down to the language that I'm using. So some posts I will use specific language and it will perform really well, and then versus others that maybe don't perform as well. And then you can start to understand and build, like I say, build a story of what's going to work for you. But it is being really nerdy, even down to trying out different text formats, where the text is placed, the coloring of the text, is it easy to read? Like all of these really small things are really, really good to look at when you're looking at your analytics as well, to see, what's done well, what hasn't performed well. But even really quickly, I'll let you jump in, but even down to using different hooks as well. So when you're putting out content, your hook is something that is going to engage people and suck people in. There's so many different hooks that you can use. So a hook might be 3 mistakes when you're learning X, or this is the one thing I wouldn't do if I was learning X, or here's a great tip for you, and it hooks you in, right? there's so many different types of hooks that you can use. And then it's playing around and understanding what's going to work. Okay, that one didn't land so well. That one landed really, really well. How do I repeat it? How do I create the same bit of content, but maybe vary it up a little bit and then compare it?
Yeah. Exactly that. Just nerd out on it a little bit. So it's not enough just to kind of go, okay, that bit of content did well, and it was, it was a recipe, or it was. You have to get deeper than that. It can't just be headline stuff. So it might be that, like, every time I use that orange font at the beginning, my view time goes up. People
Yeah.
watch longer. Or, I mean, I don't follow a girl, so I see this girl in my algorithm on Instagram, I think it is, and she's a fitness coach, and she does a lot of like fitness recipes. But what I really like is every single video she makes, she starts off by saying, did you know if you add, and then she gets into the ingredients.
Yeah.
Every video starts off with her. She looks straight down the camera and says, did you know? And clearly that's a great hook anyway. Did you know?
Yeah.
So, get nerdy. Oh, okay. So when I use this particular hook, or in this setting, or if I'm using this particular font, so you just have to deep dive, and you have to spend a little bit of time in it. Were you going to talk about running adverts at all? Or is this a useful time to jump in and do that? Or will I break your flow?
I was going to go into the professional dashboard.
Okay, let's do that at the end then. I'll jump in with that.
And then we could, because you're really big on that. There's a couple of things that you're really big on for adverts. So this I am going to be a little bit eyes down, because I want to talk you through it as I'm doing it, so that you can really understand it. So you can, the metrics on Instagram, and they're the same on every single platform, are really, really, really easy to follow, and they are super, super useful. So on your profile anyway, just underneath your bio, you should be able to see your professional dashboard. And even at a glance, I can see that in the last 30 days, my profile's had 2.4 million views. And it's got a little green arrow next to it. So it's already, it's up. Then when I click into the professional dashboard, it's broken down by the insights in terms of the date range. This is within the last 30 days, and this can be changed as well. You can do it the last 7 days, 2 months, 6 months. Or you can do a custom scale as well. But over the last 30 days is a really good sort of wide indication, really a wide span to be able to compare. Then you can see your views. So you can, each of these views, followers, and content you shared, you can click into it and get more details. So the first one is views. And when you click into it, you can see how many views your page has had. And then it breaks it down even by the views by content type. So looking how many views your reels, your posts, and your stories have got. And then it goes into the top content by views as well. So if I go into see all, I can literally see over the last 30 days what reels have performed the best. And you can even niche that down further by followers, viewers. There is so much that you can do, that actually then the one that's performing the best,
is a personal post, is that the one?
It is this is really, really interesting. So the one that's performing the best at the minute is a move that I like to teach.
Right.
And it's called the front squirrel. And I've posted it maybe 3 or 4 times now, but I've posted the reaction I get when I teach it. And that's what it is. And this one is currently at just under 600,000 views.
Wow.
And the last one I posted up when I last taught it, exactly the same type of content, I think it reached 1 mil, and it did really, really well. It's at about 800,000-900,000 on YouTube as well. So, but it's exactly the same video, just in a different format. So again, you can see how, like, every time I've recreated that piece of content, it's done really, really, really well.
So why wouldn't you double down?
So why wouldn't I double down? So maybe for me, I'm just using it within my field to make it a little bit more relevant. Could I do some tips on that move? Could I do some common mistakes and really deep dive? So then you can really see your interactions by reel. How many people are interacting, how many people are watching, how many people visited your profile off the back of it, how many people tapped into your bio off the back of it. So there is so much stuff that you can look at. And then when you go into your followers, this is really, really interesting and really, really important, because not only can you see the gender, the age range, and the location of where your followers are coming from, but also the follower activity time, the follower active times, activity times. So when are your followers the most active? So for me, I always see the most engagement when I post around between 6 and 8 o'clock. Do you
AM
ever?
or PM?
PM. Always have. That when I was actually building my Instagram, I actually wouldn't. There was a period of time where I'd only post at 8:30, between 8 and 9.
Well, it's kind of well, it's different for you now because you're so international. But especially if you are catering to, say, a local market, between 6 and 8 PM is like prime scrolling time, isn't it?
Yeah. What's really interesting is like the location for me is not the UK. I've always known that anyway. It's always been America. And you can see where your biggest locations are too, so you can tailor the content with the time difference around that as well.
Mhm.
The age range, whether you're, I know this anyway, this is really obvious, but 95% of my audience are female, 5% being male. I've always had such a low male percentage of followers, which is amazing because I'm not selling to men. But also what's really, really good, and something that was really interesting for me to see, is how many followers and unfollowers you get and when you get them too. So you can see by the day how many unfollows you've had and how many follows. Now, again, not to get caught up in this because it is a little bit of a vanity metric, but it also gives you an indication of what's turning your audience off. Now, for
Or on.
me, or on, yeah, for me, I saw a massive, I'm talking like hundreds of unfollows a day when I was pregnant. Do you remember I saw a massive,
Yeah.
well, I lost like at least maybe 7, 8, maybe even 10,000 followers when I was pregnant because people were like, nah, don't want to see it.
Also, I think people are a little uncomfortable with the stuff you were because you were so
Maybe.
active, and but that's irrelevant. But yeah, absolutely, it was a bit of a and that way you can decide then, like you did at the time, like, well, I'm not doing this.
No.
So, but you might be in a situation as a business where you look at it and be like, we're hemorrhaging followers every time we talk about X or every time we
Yeah.
do, and you might just want to look to curtail that. And I'm not saying stifle your voice or your opinions, although I've said before, businesses don't have opinions, so just keep that in mind when creating content. But it might be a case of like, yeah, shit, every time we do that, like we lose followers.
Mm.
Now, I'll just jump in here quickly if you don't mind and talk about the followers. Those of you that follow Gary V, as we do, we're huge fans of Gary Vaynerchuk and the content he produces. And if you don't know who he is, you should go and follow him. But he's been talking quite aggressively over the last 12 months or so about the fact we don't live in social media anymore. We live and operate in interest media, meaning that it used to be you had to accrue a following, and you would only really see on social media stuff from the people you follow. However, the algorithm now is much more in tune to what you like and will just continue to push content your way, regardless of whether or not you follow the individual, based on what you engage with the most. So again, take it with a pinch of salt, and you kind of have to read between the lines because there's some nuance. Yes, gaining and losing followers is an important thing, but actually it's not the end of the world now. There's accounts with very low followings that can produce some crazy numbers in terms of views and interactions, because we're finally, I think, in a place of a level playing field again with social media, where if the content's good, it will land.
Mm.
And if it's not, it won't. So I think it's you're in probably the best time ever to look at these analytics and take them quite seriously.
Well, the market doesn't lie either, right?
The
That
market
is
never
the thing, and
lies. The market's never wrong.
I feel like that's sometimes the hard thing, is that you work really, really hard on a piece of content, especially if you spend a long time editing it. Like I can edit a video like that. I'm so fast at it. So to me, it's like just water off a duck's back. It's really quick. But I know how long it takes. And if you don't know and you're not fast at it, then it can be painstaking. It can take you about an hour to 2 hours to edit one video. So you put everything in to edit in this video or post, or even sometimes for me, actually posts in Canva will take me about 45 minutes if I'm really being specific on text and layout and stuff. And then I put it out and it doesn't do very well. And it could be a bit disheartening, but off the back of that, on the surface, it might look like it hasn't performed very well, but on the back end, 10 people have joined my wait list and 3 people have bought my kettlebell pump. So actually off that one post, I've generated X amount of revenue, and I've just got some people sign up to a wait list. So that was actually a really, really successful post. And I've had quite a lot of those where like I've always said, and I've said throughout these social media podcasts, that my kettlebell videos have never done amazingly well. Like I'll never post like if you like a kettlebell workout or something, they don't perform as well as my other content. But like I say, when I do post stuff like that, people buy the
You make
kettlebell
money.
plan. I make
So
money. So
do you want followers or customers? Comes back to that, right?
this is it.
And you see that a lot on LinkedIn as well. I've certainly found over the decade or so that I've been hammering content on LinkedIn, and I might be wrong, and it might just be me. I've never struggled to do business. I've never struggled for customers, but the I've found that people don't seem to engage as much on LinkedIn, or they certainly didn't with my content, and yet it never stopped me doing business. It never really impacted because I'm this guy, right? If I'm on LinkedIn, if I'm liking and engaging with stuff, it's probably from my mates. If I'm reading something that someone's posted, I'm not a big liker. I don't really engage much. So, and I think that's the same on LinkedIn. These people are busy generally, and they'll kind of consume it, but they're not going to give you a like just to give you a bit of an ego boost. And yet it's always performing well in terms of views. It never does tremendously well in terms of likes and comments, but it generates business, and it always has. So, yeah, don't be too stressed out about it for sure.
Yeah, and
I would rather, I'm really sorry, just last point, as coming back to what you said, I'd much rather have a post that dies on its ass in terms of the vanity numbers, but makes money all day
100%.
long. That's all I'm here for.
This is it. And sometimes like I say, I'm like, oh, that post really didn't do very well. And then what happens on the back end, I'm like it's like my before and afters, the transformations, never going to land. Actually, they do perform really, really well at the moment because carousels are really, really working. So carousel posts are performing really, really well on Instagram. And as a result, they've pretty much been on par with my Reels content, not for likes. The likes are really, really low, but the views are really, really high. But it's what happens. That's how I showcase the work that I do, or people might be interested in working with me, or that's really how I use and trial the language that I'm going to use to, how posts are going to perform. And it's really interesting because we speak about that a lot, don't we? The language that's being used. And this is where I think AI is really, really good. Like use ChatGPT as a language tool. It's really obvious when I've seen people write captions that are very, very obviously done by AI. It's really obvious when you use AI now as well. So I still think I still feel like your captions and stuff need to be coming from you, and like, if you're putting text on your content, it needs to be coming from you still, and feeling like it's coming from you. But use ChatGPT or any other format of a AI as a language. Like, how can you make this sound better? How can can you give me a few options of how I could word this differently? And then you can pick and choose and see what performs well. So what I would do as a takeaway from today, because we already said this podcast wasn't going to be very long. There's not too much to deep dive on it, because it's honestly, if you can go into your professional dashboard on every platform and have a little play around, like, we can tell you what's there, but go and look at it, because without looking at those analytics, we can't tell you to make X posts, or with clients that we work with, in order for us to be able to steer you in the direction, we need to understand those analytics, and so do you. But don't look at those on a daily basis or even a weekly basis. What I would do is, at the end of the month, review the whole month, review that 30-day period, and then maybe pick the top 3 posts for reach, saves, shares, deep dive on them, understand why they might have performed well. Are people commenting? Just try and get a little bit nerdy with it, and then recreate for the following month. And again, use it month on month to really start to see before you get to it. Or it might happen even quicker than that, by the way. Like for me, when I first posted the first ever tutorial that I did in lockdown in the lounge where we are now, within 10 minutes I had 150 saves. That is huge amount of saves. So that for me was a real, like, that's where it's at. That's what
Yeah.
that's what people want. And so I create more of it. and more of it and more of it. And then I realized people like tutorials. So then I would put on my stories, what type of tutorials do you want to see? And then I started to understand the level of my audience. I was creating beginner tutorials, but actually I had a lot of intermediate audience. So I needed to change that a little bit. And then, yeah, then I've changed my content over the years to really serve my audience and what I think they would want.
Yeah. I'm with you. Yes, look at the analytics, but if you're just starting out, I wouldn't stress about anything until you've made 100 bits of content. Yeah, for sure. Like, if you do if let's say you've made 20 bits of content and there's one standout piece, then you should be making at least one of those a week minimum. But you do still need to play around because you don't have enough data yet.
Yeah.
So it's kind of incremental, like Beck said. So, you talked about it in like monthly segments. I agree. But unless you've made 100 bits of content minimum, but truly we talk about 500, don't we? Right?
Yeah, I said that to you the other day, and I was like, you need like 5 really. Like, I know it's a lot, but it's necessary.
If you haven't made 500 pieces of content, I don't think you're fully in the game. If you've made 100, like, you're not a newbie anymore, but you've got to be, and then, you've got lots of data to choose from. It's a little bit like, to use a slightly obscure reference, when you look at like, studies, like maybe it's a clinical study or a medical study, and you look at it and they're like, oh wow, there was like 4,000 participants. Okay, then the data is pretty. But if it's like
5,
9 participants did this at a university, you're like, well, that's not real. They're not real numbers. That's not real data.
Yeah.
So,
and this is again, but also this is where it gets quite difficult as well. And I think you have to be really true to yourself and sometimes put yourself in the business perspective, not your perspective. Like Rob said on one of the podcasts previously, your social media is not for you. And sometimes I've had to pull myself out of that hole a couple of times where I'm like, if you were to land on my page for the first time, would you actually know what I do? Because a lot of it is me training, and there is a big part of that because showcasing how I train and what I do showcases, it also feeds into what I'm about. Like, I'm about getting you stronger, so I'm showcasing the strength that I have that I can help you achieve the same. But also I'm a strength and conditioning coach, so I need to be posting strength and conditioning tips, that. And sometimes you lose a little bit of sight of that and you post more for you, but always reviewing like, what is the consumer getting out of this?
Yes. Because to that tune, right, if I post on Instagram, we've talked about this before, and I think this is why it's so exciting to be able to create this podcast, because I'm now on the journey in terms of Instagram and TikTok. I've spent the last decade scaling a pretty substantial following on LinkedIn, but now I'm having to start again and do it all over again on Instagram and TikTok. So it's cool that we kind of get to practice what we preach and put it into reality. But quite an interesting way that I've been thinking about this recently is, as you said, use your grid for your business, but use your stories to build your personal brand,
build trust,
and let them get to know you. And I think that's a nice way of doing it. So don't worry, certainly put some personal stuff up, because I think people buy from people they like, and if you can show people who you are a little bit, but we're talking for like every one personal post, there should be 20 plus of adding value. Because the point I was going to make about Instagram, right? Because I'm starting from zilch and building an Instagram and TikTok profile, when I post my business content, it does okay and it's getting a bit better. And as my profile grows, it gets a bit more exposure. If I post anything jiu-jitsu related, all my jiu-jitsu buddies jump in and like it. So my best performing posts in terms of those metrics are nothing to do with business. So, and I know
everybody comes and talks to you about business because they see your shit on Instagram.
Yeah, and that's cool, and that is cool. But what I'm saying is that if I just went, oh, my highest performing posts are me doing jiu-jitsu, well, that's not going to sell product. That's not going to sell service.
No.
So again, just taking it with a pinch of salt.
Yeah.
As you said.
And what I wanted to add on that is like, what's difficult is like finding that middle ground of like what you enjoy posting
for sure,
too. So
for sure.
but then you know, someone in my position is a bit of a hybrid because I don't have a I don't have a personal account. My personal account is my business account,
Same here, yeah.
and that's what I chose to do. So it's not like I post personal photos maybe somewhere else. I don't. So my private life is quite private, but what I choose to share, I put on my personal business account. Really, it's all blended into one.
Yeah.
But you still need that balance of, and I think that is one of the best pieces of advice that I can give, and something that I do really regularly. If somebody brand new is landing on your page, could they easily understand what you're offering, what you're doing, or what you are about? You know, if I land on your page and it's like 15 selfies of you, that doesn't tell me anything, and it doesn't actually, you know, I'm not gonna really stick around. And it's a bit like I actually said to you the other day, didn't I, about cover photos on
Mm,
your
mm,
reels. I think cover photos are really important, because if you go onto my Instagram and take a glance at the grid, it's not about making the grid necessarily look pretty, but when you go on my Insta, you can clearly see there's a handspring entry, conditioning video, learn with me,
yeah,
intermediate combo. Like, it's really
yeah,
clear what I'm offering. So I think sometimes, again, when you're attracting people and the attention, having stuff like that and making sure your page is clear
yeah,
with the content that you're creating is
yeah.
really, really important. But anyway, we're going off a little bit on that, but I think that's really the body of what we want to talk about. I think we've covered everything. I think using your professional dashboard on every single platform is really, really key,
Yep.
and then use it to guide you in the direction that you're going to be creating content for, and get nerdy on it. You
Yeah.
know, get nerdy on the colors you're using, the text you're using, switch it up, be brave, you know, go for something that's maybe not very you. And then if it flops, fine. But if it does really, really well, like, okay, cool, people like
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
So yeah, use it to your advantage. You know, all my best performing stuff, by the way, is like BTS
Right.
behind
Interesting.
the scenes. That stuff always, always, always performs well. But that stuff doesn't get me customers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, you know, like, it's fine. It's that fine line.
Yeah. Final thing from me, we don't need to touch on it a lot, but
You went to
um,
the ads, didn't
I
you?
want to talk about running adverts. If you're in a business or a line of business that you feel you would benefit from paid reach, then again, I hear this from a bunch of people. Your content and your best performing content will tell you what you should be running as an advert. If people are already engaging it and digging it, just repurpose it and throw it out there. There's something about that content that is engaging people. They're liking it. They want to
Yeah.
watch it. They want to share it with their friends. They want to save it. So use it. It's crazy to me. You know, it used to be back in the old world of marketing that you would have to basically create a marketing campaign and push it out and hope to fuck that it generated leads and revenue. But now we live in a world where we have a free test run. You know, before you start spending money, you can run tests for free. You can analyze the data, and then you can start putting marketing pounds and marketing dollars against it when you know it already is captivating. So I think that's sound advice. That's not my advice. I've completely plagiarized that from some very highly skilled and knowledgeable people in the industry, but we really subscribe to that,
Yeah,
don't we? We
absolutely.
like that theory.
Something that you said as well, the repurposing is key.
Yeah.
You can repurpose content just because you've posted it once.
Oh, hell yeah.
I wouldn't necessarily post it the next week,
No,
but maybe in 2 months'
for
time.
sure.
Like, you got to remember that, as even with like regardless of your audience size, the amount of people that will see your content is like so small. Like, if 3% of your followers are going to buy from you, how many people do you think see your content? Like, just because I have 166,000 followers, not all of those followers see my content. And actually, what I was looking at in the analytics is quite a large amount of views come from non-followers,
Mm. Well,
which is
yeah,
really
you're at
good.
a size now where you're in the you're
Yeah.
in the
But
For You
which
page.
is really, really cool, because it means that my content's being pushed out to new people and new people are seeing it. But that means there's a vast amount of my Instagram following that's not seeing it. So don't feel like if you've posted something once, you know, that's it. Or if you talk about something once, that's it. You can't talk about it again. Like, it's banging the same drum, but in different ways, and finding the way which it's like throwing, throwing shit at the wall.
Yeah, see what sticks.
What is seeing what sticks? What is the actual saying? Is that the saying?
That
Throwing
is the
shit at the
saying.
wall.
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Keep throwing that
So
shit at the
yeah,
wall.
keep throwing that shit at the wall and seeing what sticks, because it's the only way you're going to learn, and you have to be brave and take risks, and then go, that didn't work. That's fine. It flopped. Don't delete it. Just go again. Move
No,
on.
just
And
leave it up there.
yeah, so that really rounds up our social media podcast. I hope that's given you a really good amount of value. Each one of those podcasts is really, really valuable, and in the order that we have recorded these and structured these, we've tried to be like a map, a step-by-step guide, really. And this is really for anybody that's just starting out. If you're already on social media and using it and understand all of this, then these podcasts aren't for you. But if you are brand new to social media, or maybe just starting a business and not really understanding how to leverage and grow your business, then this is the podcast for you. But hopefully it's provided a little bit of insight, understanding and value, which is what we aim to do on every podcast.
Yeah. Final thought from me would be just go for it. We believe in you. We know you can do it. Even if you don't know you yourself that you can do it, you absolutely can. We come up with these silly little quips and quotes all the time, but like you just got to take the plunge. You got to feel a bit foolish. You got to feel a bit vulnerable. And look, I used a similar quote last time, but those people laughing at your content are the same people that have to ask permission to eat their lunch. So you can do it. I believe in you. Get out there and make some content.
Absolutely. Can change your life.
For sure. Right, guys. Thanks for your ongoing support. We love and appreciate all of you. And if you have any comments, questions, please leave them. We'd love to get to them. And we're going to join you, or you'll join us next time for, I think we're going to talk a little bit more around productivity. We've got some podcasts coming up around mindset, parenting.
I really want to do one. I'm really pushing for the parenting.
Yeah, we'll do one on parenting, and I think that would be interesting. Like a book club, one that books that we've read that have changed our lives. So there's lots of cool stuff coming in the new look of the Performance Lounge. So yeah, keep your eyes peeled, and thank you for your support.